Right now, somewhere in the world, a cup of coffee is being poured. In fact, more than 2 billion cups are consumed every single day, making coffee one of the most popular drinks on the planet. But that simple cup on your desk is the end of an extraordinary journey. It begins as a bright red fruit on a mountainside thousands of miles away, and only after being picked, dried, and tumbled through giant spinning drums heated past 400 degrees does it become the dark, aromatic drink you know. So how does a small tropical berry end up powering the world? Today, we're following coffee from the tree all the way to your mug. Coffee's story begins over 1,000 years ago in the highlands of Ethiopia. Legend tells of a goat herder named Kaldi, who noticed his herd became strangely energetic after eating bright red berries from a wild shrub. Curious, Kaldi tried them himself and felt the exact same rush of energy. Word of this fruit spread across the Red Sea to Yemen, where by the 15th century, the seeds were roasted and brewed into a hot drink for the very first time. From there, coffee conquered the globe. Today, it's grown in more than 70 countries, almost all clustered along the equator in a warm, tropical band known as the Bean Belt. It all starts with a plant. Coffee grows on evergreen shrubs that thrive in tropical climates, at high altitudes, with steady rain and rich soil. There are two main species you'll find in your cup. The first is Arabica, prized for its smooth, complex flavor, but delicate and harder to grow. The second is Robusta, hardier, more bitter, and containing nearly twice the caffeine. A coffee shrub takes 3 to 4 years to begin producing fruit. When it does, it blooms with small white flowers, and those flowers eventually give way to the fruit at the heart of our story, the coffee cherry. When the cherries ripen to a deep, glossy red, it's time to harvest. On steep mountain farms, this is often still done entirely by hand. Skilled pickers moving through the rows, selecting only the ripest cherries and leaving the rest to mature. It's slow, painstaking work. A single picker might harvest over 100 pounds of cherries in a day, and yet that entire haul will produce only about 20 pounds of finished coffee. Inside each cherry are the 2 green seeds we call coffee beans. But before those beans can be roasted, they have to be freed from the fruit, and that's where processing begins. There are 2 main ways to get the bean out of the cherry. The first is the dry process, the oldest method. The whole cherries are spread out under the sun and raked regularly for weeks, until the fruit dries and shrivels around the bean. The second is the wet process. Here, the cherries are pulped to remove the outer skin, then soaked in tanks of water where natural fermentation loosens the sticky layer around each bean. The beans are then washed and dried. Whichever method is used, the result is the same: pale green, unroasted coffee beans, ready to be shipped around the world. At this stage, they have almost no smell and no flavor. All of that is still locked inside, waiting for heat. This is where the magic happens. Green coffee beans are poured into massive rotating drums and roasted at temperatures between 370 and 450 degrees Fahrenheit. As the beans heat up, they transform. They turn from green to yellow to brown, doubling in size as moisture escapes. Then comes a moment roasters listen for: the first crack, an audible pop, as the beans split and release their oils. This is when hundreds of aromatic compounds are born, giving coffee its rich, complex flavor. A light roast is pulled just after this first crack. A darker roast is left longer, developing bolder, smokier notes. Timing is everything. A few seconds too long can ruin an entire batch. Once roasted, the beans are rapidly cooled to lock in the flavor. Freshly roasted beans are then packaged, often in bags with a small one-way valve that lets carbon dioxide escape without letting oxygen in, keeping the coffee fresh. But the beans aren't quite ready to drink. They need to be ground. Grinding increases the surface area, letting hot water extract all that locked-in flavor. A coarse grind is used for slow brewing methods, a fine grind for espresso. Finally, hot water meets ground coffee. In just moments, water pulls the oils, acids, and aromatic compounds out of the grounds, and that pale green seed, picked from a tree on a distant mountainside, has finally become the drink in your cup. Before we finish, here are a few things you might not know about coffee. The word coffee comes from Kaffa, the region of Ethiopia where it may have first grown. Brazil has been the world's largest coffee producer for over 150 years, growing about a third of the entire global supply. And despite its energizing reputation, the caffeine in your cup barely changes during roasting. It's remarkably stable under heat. Finally, those beans aren't technically beans at all. They're seeds, the pits of a fruit, which makes your morning coffee, botanically speaking, a lot closer to a cup of fruit juice than you ever imagined. From a wild red berry in the mountains of Ethiopia to over 2 billion cups a day, coffee has come a long way. And now, the next time you take that first warm sip, you'll know the incredible journey behind it. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe. We break down how everyday things are made every single week. And leave a comment. Which product should we cover next? See you in the next one.